Movies made in China are also attracting audiences overseas. The action movie Wolf Warrior 2 has grossed nearly $900 million since its release in July. It's now the most successful film in the country's history. CGTN's Mei Li sat down with its female star, Celina Jade, in Los Angeles to talk about the movie's big success.
Well, you know, it did definitely change things a little bit for me, and I didn't quite expect that to happen, so it was slightly jarring in the quite overwhelming in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, in the beginning when the movie first came out, we were looking at the box office numbers, and I felt like I was watching the stock market, and it was very exciting. We're like, oh, it's at 2 billion now, it's at 3 billion now. But then there were numbers, like it didn't really mean anything to me until I was just going about my normal way in the airport, and all of a sudden, some guy just had his camera up, like and I was like, is he taking photos of me? Is he not? Maybe I'm just overthinking things. And next thing you know, as I'm like passing him, he's really like in front of me. So I'm like, you know what? If you want a photo, I'm happy to take one with you. Let's not go crazy. So I did. But then what happened was very quickly it formed a crowd, and in China, people are very, very passionate. 1 in 9 people have seen the movie.
Which is incredible.
Which is crazy, yeah. So it's only then did I realize, oh wow, like, you know, it's a lot of people have seen the film. Like, it just translated from numbers to reality, and it's cool. What excites me the most about it is that my mom, because I was working on Arrow, I was working in the States for a while, and she always told me, she's like, you should go work in China, because I went to Chinese school, I speak fluent Mandarin, Cantonese, I read and write, and she says, if you want to really help people, you should go to China, because there's so many great role models in the US, right? So she's like, if you want to help women, if you want to talk about education, if you want to talk about healthy eating, clean living, sustainability, she's like, you need to go to China. So now that this movie is huge, I have a platform, I have a voice.
So where does that compassion come from to make a difference? Does it come from your family?
I think both my parents are very spiritual people. My mom was a very compassionate, generous, loving person, and we grew up, like, you know, learning about this philosophy from my parents. But what really solidified it for me was my mom passed this January.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It happens. It's life. Everyone goes through it once. But what really solidified it for me was when she passed, I realized that one, life is so short. She passed when she was 60. 2, in the end, nothing really matters. So it doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter what legacy you leave behind, like what companies you build. But what is nice are those people that came up to her toward the end of her life and said, you know, you really changed my life, or my mother helped a lot of people. And family, relationships, memories.
What about the difference between Hollywood and China, given the fact that you've worked in both? There's always that idea of cultural differences, so talk to me a little bit about that.
One of the things that stuck with me was Sam Hargrave, who is our action director. He's very good. He's done Captain America, he's done Avengers, Hunger Games, so he knows his stuff. And yet, when he was working with our director, Wu Jing, he would come out with different options on how to do things, and he would always say, I trust you, you know your audience. I think really that's a huge key to success. One of the things that was quite funny was the last scene on Wolf Warrior 2, where Frank Grillo and Wu Jing are having their final fight, and I'm behind the bars with all the African actors behind me. And Wu Jing's not dying, he's just fighting. Okay, but it is the last fight. And so the director tells all the actors behind me to cry and be really emotional. So literally, they were like chopping eye drops and going, ah, right? And so Frank Grillo, who's just across, just a little bit away from us, is like cracking up. And he's like, the guy's not dead yet. Like, why is everyone crying? And in Hollywood, actors often say, we don't cry for the audience. We don't want to cry, we want to make the audience cry, right? But then in China, it's we want to cry with the audience.
It must make you happy to see that Western producers, directors, and content creators are becoming more aware.
Yes.
To become more culturally aware and sensitive.
Yes, it's amazing. It makes me so happy when they are more culturally receptive, but also, you know, towards adding in more parts for women to play parts that are more empowering, you know, so that women audiences can also root for their female characters.